We might as well jump into it. Today we're going to discuss karma. Okay, what a topic. Um, well, we're not going to really discuss it. We're going to kind of illustrate it, and it could change your life. You might have a realization. You know what I mean? But that's not the purpose. The purpose is to hear a good story. And now, does fate? Does that mean predestination? Well, not necessarily, although I'm not opposed to it. Okay, so let's get into the illustration. The illustration is President Eisenhower and myself, through time, through the twisting of smoke of the unfolding of life, um, it was destined by fate that we would meet eye to eye, flesh to flesh, and I'm going to tell you that story. But first, let's set the stage. We were far apart. I'm going to put up some photos here. This is to the right. That's me. I was born in 1944. But 40 years before I was born, Dwight D. Eisenhower, who they called Ike, um, was born. And he went through the military academy and on, and became a 5-star general. That's a lot of stars. And the Allied commander for World War II. So he was the big guy. He was in charge of the U.S., Britain, France, and Soviet Union. Okay, so he did defeat Hitler. So now we can say, in terms of his fate, in terms of meeting me, if he hadn't defeated Hitler, we would have never met. Okay, he did. Then he ran for president, and he was elected for 2 terms. But before that, we got to really get into some karma here. Before he ran for president, back actually in 1916, he met Mimi. He put his eye on her, and they ended up getting married. Okay, now I'm not saying Ike was cheap, but back then he was in the military. They didn't have a lot of money, and so they got married in her mother's home, uh, which is uh, in Denver, Colorado, on Lafayette Street. Okay, well, that sealed his fate right there, because when he became president, his mother-in-law's house, they called it the Dowd House, became the summer White House. And he had an office out at the Air Force Base, but Mimi would spend the time with her mom, and he would visit there often. Okay, and the locals would meet across the street and wave to him. Okay, so if he hadn't have married Mimi, he would have never got to Lafayette Street. Okay, so well, that's good enough for Ike. Although, just in terms of his presidency, I just got to read you because I'm impressed with it myself. Um, he was quite a president, you know. So let me. This is kind of a eulogy. Dwight D. Eisenhower, a 5-star general who became supreme commander and engineered D-Day, later the 34th president of the United States from 1953 to 61, famous for ushering in an era of peace. Whoa. And prosperity, establishing the interstate highway system. Wow, and created NASA. All right, and maintaining a middle ground domestic policy. Okay, while at the same time supporting segregation, desegregation. Okay, all right, quite a quite a president. Okay, so he was really up there. He had a summer White House, and he was doing good. Um, Okay, now, as for myself, of course, I was not raised in Denver. No, I was raised on a farm north of Denver in Colorado. And but lo and behold, as fate would have it, my father got a good offer on the farm, so he's looking for a house in Denver. And he's looking, and he decided to buy this 3-story house on Lafayette Street, 3 blocks north of the Dowd House. Okay, so Larry King, myself, back as a kid, moved to Lafayette Street in when I was in seventh grade. And from seventh grade to when I was a junior in high school, all those years, the president would come to the summer White House down the street. And sometimes we'd go down and there would be a crowd of people and he would wave and this type of thing. So it turned out when his presidency was just about over, he made a farewell tour. And of course, he came to Denver. And at that time, I have to talk about the security because um, I did breach the security. Okay, so we got to talk about what kind of security they have. Basically, what they had was uh, she lived in this three-story house on Lafayette Street with a fairly long driveway, and the limo was parked in there. And no one was allowed on that side of the street. You had to be across the street on the other side of this rope line. It was a red rope line, just like in a theater. The velvet rope with the metal stands and then the metal, the loop-de-loop. And everyone knew, of course, that the rope line, what it meant was you had to stay on this side of the rope line. Okay. So that was the security perimeter, I guess you might say, if you put it in modern day terminology. Okay. And also the flavor was different back then. The Secret Service would, I don't remember any of them up on the roof, that's for darn sure. They would come out and gather up teddy bears and toys from the kids and take them in. And Ike, as he was known, would sign them, okay, and send them back out. And so on his last tour, I didn't know it was his last tour, but last visit as president, I'm down there with a couple of buddies sitting across the street. And they're in the limo, and the limo is starting down the driveway. Now, there's no cars allowed on that street, but it was a narrow street. So when he comes out and makes that turn, he's got the whole road to himself. So he comes out into the middle of that street. It's a narrow street. And that's where we were sitting right there. So just when the limo gets down and starts that turn, my buddy, Frank, said, I'll give you $1 if you go shake his hand, because he's waving out the window, So I just split underneath that fence. I was across there. He saw me coming, and basically he just smiled. He was waving, and he just put out his hand, and we just shook hands, and I stood there, and he went on, and so that's what I did. I did it for the $1, and I also did it for, I guess, the attention. I don't remember telling my parents or anybody about it, but I got the $1. Okay. So a few little twists of fate in your life, and every small step in your life, the red light, it turns yellow. Do you go through it on the yellow or do you stop? Okay. Not knowing, not understanding that that decision changes your whole life. Who you're going to meet at the restaurant, who just left, who just arrived, what girl did you see getting off the bus? Okay. Totally different now, even though you think you're still in control. Okay. So, wow. Okay. I guess that's the end of that story. Choking on it myself. All right. So this was episode 1 on my new Freedom channel, which I'm launching January 31st, 2026. And I'm going to have some fun making videos, and it gives me something to do. I'm retired, and so I'm playing life kind of loose. In fact, I will play this song, which is kind of a philosophy of life.
Isn't life beautiful? Isn't life gay? Isn't life the perfect thing to pass the time away?
Doobie-doo-ba-dee-doo.